My name is Ai Futaki. I travel the world as a freediver and underwater videographer. My passion for the sea has brought me back to Japan. I have swum with awesome creatures, and I hold a world record for the longest dive on a single breath. I'm here to swim with the Alma, female freedivers, who harvest abalone and other seafood while preserving the balance of the seas.
They have a long matriarchal hereditary tradition of passing on harvesting rights from one generation of women to the next.
But the Alma's way of life is in danger, so experts gather at the Alma Summit, where divers from Korea and Japan meet to plan for the future.
Alma of Japan might be able to help artisanal fishers elsewhere in the world in adapting to an ever-changing environment.
すごい。これもともと何用ですか？
こういう細い間に入っていった時に落ちた時にこれでこう持ってくる引っ掛けてくる。
I want to learn the ways of these brave women, many of whom are more than 60 years old, and maybe the last of a unique culture that began thousands of years ago. I'm heading to a small fishing village on the Japanese coast in Fukui province, 500 kilometers from Tokyo. I was invited by an Alma diver I met 3 years ago. Mariko Otoku was a very successful Alma. I felt honored that she let me film her at work, and our shared passion for the sea led to our friendship. I promised to return and swim with her again. But just before I arrived, I got a phone call that Mariko was hospitalized. She's asked her fellow Alma to look after me, but it won't be the same without her. This island shelters Anto village from wind and waves, and the first Alma settlers realized it was the perfect habitat. They value their tradition, passing down the same fishing methods for generations.
It's not just a cultural exploration. They're one of the few fisher people who actually get right inside the ocean. How are they observing the changes in the ocean? Global warming, the changing of ecosystems. So I believe they are guardians of some very critical ecological information.
It's 5:30 a.m. I'm here to meet Mariko's friend and learn how to be an Alma.
皆さんおはようございます。滝愛です。1週間よろしくお願いします。今これで何見てるんですか？
濁ってない綺麗よ。
The Alma dive in summer, but only in calm weather. Waves stir up the seabed, which make it difficult to see underwater.
これは何ですか？
これは海今日入りますよっていう合図。
みんなにお知らせ。はいはい。
Each Alma community is run by a senior diver who decides if conditions are good for diving. Reiko Odawara started as an Alma when she was 18. In those days, Alma wore their traditional white cotton suits. 60 years later, Reiko wears a wetsuit, but her work and passion for it are unchanged. By 6 a.m., the others gather, wheeling wooden buckets, which serve as a floating aid and storage. Even after a lifetime of diving, everyone seems so excited to be heading for the sea.
An 80-year-old Alma-san. On land, she's quite awkward. Some will use a cane. When I watch the Alma in the water, They're all like graceful ballerinas. It's just amazing. That's their workplace. That's their office.
The women carry their kids in these buckets, which are also color-coded so everyone can see who is diving where. I'm so excited, but I feel like an alien in my high-tech diving suit. I'm puzzled why they stopped to pick leaves. Everyone seems so laid back, and I can't believe that Leiko stuffs her ears with children's clay. I'm surprised how old the Almas wetsuits are. But as long as it works, they're happy. Household gloves are kept in place by used children's socks. Leiko's dive mask looks ancient. And her boots are impressive.
クッションになってる。
はい、滑らんようになってる。
そっか、これだったら滑っちゃう。
滑るね。
だから全然違う。
But I couldn't survive without the best equipment. A wetsuit maintains body temperature, and flippers save energy. The Alma aren't interested in technology. Why buy anti-fog spray when a leaf does the job? Their simple equipment says it all. The Alma have been guardians of a unique relationship with the ocean. Their communities did things differently from fishermen. 50 years ago, the Alma debated about using scuba gear and other technology. But they decided not to, as they feared it would lead to overharvesting.
They're artisanal fishers. As they look for the abalone or the turban shell, they have very interesting marine observations. Although it might not be high-tech scientific, they have set some very specific rules. No take zones. And they have their maps of where they delineate where you can harvest, where you can't harvest, the seasons of harvesting, the times of harvesting, the size of the turban shell, the size of the abalone shell. All of this is regulated.
Over 4 hours, Leiko makes around 200 dives. She searches for shells in water 5 meters deep, then goes up for air and comes back to gather shells she marked. I'm less than half Leiko's age, and I was so tired. Without her skills, I only got a handful of shells. Leiko caught everything else. The Alma have gauges to check the size of the abalone they catch. Any less than 10 centimeters are too young and return to the sea.
One of the reasons why they've been able to survive so long is that they have an understanding of the limitations of resources. This is how much you harvest, and if we harvest beyond that, we will not only kill the species that we're harvesting, but our own livelihoods.
Later, Leiko invited me to her home to see her collection of wooden buckets.
あ、桶がたくさんある。
はい、これ。
Leiko's store shows her diving and onshore life. Wetsuits and wooden buckets are beside vegetables and household goods. She keeps the most precious item in the loft, the centerpiece of an Alma story.
おお、この桶は小田原民子さん。
民子さんはもううちの主人のおばさん。嫁いできたらもうそんな私ら 昭和31年かね、そんな自分って職業がないですから、やっぱりここへ嫁いできたらもう海入る覚悟ね。
もう言わなくても
そうそうそうそう。
海に入る覚悟を持って
桶持って、桶が嫁入り道具。
Each bucket tells the story of an Alma family, and it's a symbol of their decision not to use modern equipment.
The women say, if we were to adopt new technology, we might risk exhausting the very resource that we rely to live on. In that, we actually put at risk future generations.
伝えたいけども、この海がね、もう少し綺麗で、もっと漁獲が上がるんでしたらね、いいですけど、海がだんだん悪くなっていくから、ね、だんだんもう後継者もさあ入ってっていうわけにいかないんですよね。
とはよう言えない。
言えないですね。辛いとこ。
The next morning, rain clouded my spirit even more about the Alma's future.
今日はどうですか？
今日はもう雨やから中止。
雨だから中止。
Later, Leiko takes me to see a monument near the village. It marks the huge oil spill of a Russian oil tanker in 1995.
重油がみんな流れてきて、この辺が真っ黒。
結構ここら辺か。そうか。
She told me about the amazing cleanup that she and the other Alma organized. The spill covered everything in oil, but media coverage of the disaster led to over 300,000 people to help.
They understand the connections of things. They have an understanding of the need for sustainable resource use and management, and they keep it within their community and pass it from one person to the next.
また宝の海が戻ったって。
ね、宝がね。
But faced with a changing marine environment and world, how can the Alma protect their future? I'm Ai Futaki, a freediver and underwater videographer. I've been in Anto village in northern Japan, learning the eco-friendly ways of the Alma, female freedivers. But it's tough work and I'm not having much luck. Another morning, conditions look perfect for diving and the Alma machine swings into gear. A few Alma gather on the bridge to hear Leiko give the okay. As the oldest active diver, Leiko oversees 5 team leaders. Each has to pass a signal to the Alma in their part of the village. There are 30 divers in all. It's the same system their Alma ancestors have used for centuries. Today may be my last chance to dive with Leiko.
わあ、すごい。おはようございます。今日は何の衣装ですか？
今日は海女さんの衣装。
海女さんの衣装。すごい。全然違う。
Now, what I'm focusing a lot on is how are they observing the changes in the ocean? If they start to sense a change that they feel is alarming, they start talking about it. So what should we do to adapt to the changes? Or are we a part of the problem too? What do we need to do in order to make things right again?
Leiko says catches decreased after an oil terminal was built.
この前言ってたなんか新しい港ができちゃってっていうのはあそこにあるんだ。あそこのあれが30年ぐらい。あれどれかな。もう30年経つかな。30年。
それから海が汚れ出したんや。
そっか。はじめまして。
Each time the Ama land a catch, they are careful to work within safe environmental limits.
Their extraction of resources from the ocean always has three perspectives: the past, the now, and the future. That you don't just take everything for yourself now, you have to leave something for the future as well.
These turban shells will be used for a special meal. Reiko and others gather to share the meal to discuss an important event, the upcoming Alma Summit. There is growing interest in protecting the Ama way of life.
I think it's very important. Ama divers would be given a certain social recognition for the culture they have been the guardians of for so many centuries.
Wajima City, 170 kilometers north of Anto. Divers from Korea and Japan gather for the Alma Summit. Reiko and her friends are here to push UNESCO to give cultural heritage status for their traditional fishing methods. There are some 2,000 Ama in Japan. They pray for protection, but they hold a special place in society as guardians of the sea. With Reiko and others gone, I had a chance to visit Mariko. Finally out of hospital, I was happy that her health improved. Mariko was the most successful diver in Anto. She was an Ama for over 50 years, but her illness means she can no longer dive.
入りたいね。愛ちゃんと一緒に入ろうか。石の間にバーッダンサー待ってたから、ここがもうびっちょび。
20 years ago, Mariko almost drowned in a freak accident in which her fingers were trapped by a rock. I filmed Mariko 3 years ago, turning rocks, a technique to create new habitats for abalone. It's dangerous work, and Mariko crushed her fingers from it.
石がこうガーンって落ちてきて、もう引っ張っても引っ張っても
そうそう。
手が取れなくて、
もう死ぬなと思ったんです。それで子供の顔がぼやーっと、
そう的のように、
なって、でも最後の力でグッと。そしたらやっぱり取れてきて、わあ助かった。それだけ。
It's this spirit of toughness that is being represented at the Alma Summit. Professor McDonald and others have supported the Alma for years. She hopes Alma from Korea and Japan will receive UNESCO recognition.
I've been working with local governments, national governments, and global regimes to develop more collaborative approaches to sustainable fisheries. I think it's very important that we're able to transcend geopolitical boundaries and work together towards more sustainable solutions.
まず海女さんたちが交流を持ってね、日本の海女さんたちが仲間意識を持って一つの海女というものの在り方を考えるようにならないとですね、進まないなと思ったもんですからね。
Actually, ocean people are much more connected in their history and their roots and their origin than we sometimes think they are. A special cultural designation from UNESCO would be meaningful. They understand the connection between human well-being and livelihoods and economic viability, not just ecological viability.
Back in Anto, Mariko and I paused to pray.
あら、マリコさん、あちら
神様。
神様、海の神様。
海の神様ね。お願いしよう。
お願い。
怪我をしませんように。
怪我をしませんように。
As Mariko waved me off, I went to explore the area where her accident happened. I found some turban shells on an old concrete structure. Later, I showed a video of my dive to Mariko, since she misses the sea so much.
これまだちょっと浅いところだね。下から見た。
そう、下から見た。
今日夢に見るよ。
夢に見るね
絶対見るわ。
アワビが待ってるよ。
アワビがベタっとこうしついてるとこが。
Tomorrow, Leiko and her fellow divers will return. My last day in Anto began with a dive with Anto's younger ama. The youngest is almost 60, but they have the energy and health of people half their age.
It's a magical world. So if you can get into the ocean and see how they view the wonders of marine life, it'll change how you look at the world.
After a week with the ama, I started to get the hang of catching abalone. But the greatest joy was being with women who love their work and simple way of life. After more than 60 years, Leiko's enthusiasm for the sea is stronger than ever.
毎回こう入るときは今でも楽しいですか？
楽しいですね。
楽しい。
今のがなお楽しいかしら。
今なお楽しい。やっぱりこの間も私入って自分のオケもらって、全然違いますね。
そうでしょう。
もうこうやって撮ってると忘れますよね。陸上のことをね。
嫌なことみんな忘れて。ちょっと体の調子が悪いなと思っても、そう海入るともうね、元気が出てくる。
Before leaving Anto, I had to make one last dive. My dream of becoming a Nama has inspired me to help them preserve their culture. Because these amazing women are guardians of the past and the future.